Well, hey, on today's episode, we have the owner and founder of Jessie's Gourmet Sandwiches here in Lakeland, here to talk to us about starting a business and also being in professional soccer. Come on, welcome to the show, Jessie Scarpa. Awesome. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're a Lakeland native, right?
I'm a Lakeland native.
Yeah.
Grew up here. Actually, was born in Winter Haven, but
okay,
it's all kind of the same.
It's all
thing.
the same thing. Yeah, exactly. It's. I try to explain that to people who like aren't from here. It's like we're close enough. They're Lakeland, adjacent.
Adjacent,
So,
yes.
Yeah. So tell people that are listening to this, kind of, obviously maybe some Lakelanders in this area, people that are listening that are local to our area will kind of know about you from what you've been doing lately. But tell everybody what you've been doing lately and how that's been going.
So about a year and a half ago, I opened up Jessie's Gourmet Sandwiches.
Yeah.
It's right on Edgewood, little sandwich shop. We do sandwiches and salads. We're just open 11 to 2, so we get a good little lunch rush.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then family, I've had family restaurant roots here in Lakeland. My dad owns Scarpa's, my dad and my stepmom.
Yeah.
Which, we share a parking lot.
Yeah,
So,
you're like right next to each other. It's perfect.
So
Yeah.
we're neighbors.
Yeah.
And then going back to, I want to say like the 80s, my grandpa, my dad's dad opened up Mario's, which
Oh, no
was
way.
an Italian restaurant. It started off in Winter Haven, actually. And then they moved to Lakeland. And it was actually like the last version of Mario's was in the same location that Scarpa's is in now.
No
so
way.
a lot of Scarpa history within the
That's so interesting.
plaza there on Edgewood. Yeah.
Yeah. So you come from like a line of like the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Is that something that you like always thought like, hey, I'd get into, or like?
Yeah. I mean, I think I always had an interest in food, maybe more than I have 2 sisters.
Yeah.
But soccer was a really big part of our lives growing up. So, we weren't really fully immersed in the restaurant scene as kids. We were running around doing different sports and stuff. So I really didn't give much thought to life after soccer.
Okay. Yeah.
So I played in college, played a little bit after.
Yeah. Where'd you
so
play at in college?
I played at UNC in Chapel Hill.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. What was that whole like experience like? Like you obviously hear about like the football teams and basketball teams and stuff like that, but like being a college athlete, like what was that like?
I mean, it's nice. You get the gear and everything.
Yeah.
The cool thing about UNC is it really is like a women's soccer school.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Obviously, basketball is huge there. Football, maybe not so much. They're getting better now.
Bill Belichick going there. Yeah.
But I'm just going to brag on the program a little bit.
Yeah, go for it, please.
They just won their 23rd national championship.
Jeez, wow.
So there's definitely been like a dynasty in women's soccer there. So, we were well respected on campus.
Yeah, of course. Was one of those championships while you were there?
No.
Oh,
unfortunately.
Man. Yeah.
It had been 12 years up until this last year that the school had won one in women's soccer. So
that's wild. So, but you keep up with it then still?
Yeah. Loosely.
Yeah. So in college, was there at some point where like there was maybe some point where you were like, okay, maybe it's not necessarily soccer that's going to continue on, or like I'm going to do something like start my own business or anything like that? Like, how did that come about?
Honestly, I was full steam ahead soccer. Like I was in it. I knew I wanted to play professionally after. So I wasn't even thinking about life after soccer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I had a series of injuries, knee stuff, hip. So eventually I started to think about what life looks like after that, and still had no clue. Like I moved home after I was finished playing and started working at Scarpa's, just serving tables, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was like, maybe I'll be a teacher, So I was just like playing with different things in my own brain. And then an opportunity came up, and, my parents and my wife, they were all really supportive. They're like, you should do this. Give it a go.
That's
awesome. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. It's such a unique time to come like straight out of like college, because I feel like so many of us do that, right? Like we go to college for one specific thing, and then you leave and you're like, all right, what's next? Like, what do I actually what do I actually do here?
Right.
So like I feel like it's common, right? Do you feel like at that point was it pretty obvious that hey, I'm going to do something in this industry? Was that difficult, like kind of having that open period of time?
I think, you know what, actually it's funny. One of my like best friends from middle school texted me recently. He's like, "Hey, congrats, you did it." And so I guess we had talked about some restaurant concept back in 7th grade.
Oh, really?
So like I knew this was always something that I had like a serious interest in.
Yeah.
I never knew like what way it would take shape or what sort of concept it would become, but but I knew I was always interested in that.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you're married, right? Did you meet your wife here in Lakeland or back at college or
playing soccer in Sweden actually?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So there's another story here. How did you get to Sweden?
You know, you get an agent and they send you.
Oh, wow.
You know, they put something out there. They're like,
okay, so you were good. That's what you're saying right here. Without bragging on yourself, you were good at soccer.
I was okay. Yeah, I was pretty good.
So was this prior to, or is this after college or before?
This is after college.
Okay.
So I played at UNC 4 or 5 years. I actually went in a semester early, stayed a semester late because that's always what happens. And then I didn't enter the draft for the NWSL just because I was post-surgery and kind of needed some more time to sort that all out. So yeah, and then I went over to Sweden, met my wife.
Yeah.
She's Canadian actually, so we had to go through the whole visa.
Both playing soccer?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we didn't know each other prior to that. But yeah, and then we just did long distance for a good 4 years, and then she finally got a visa, and she's in PA school now.
Yeah. So you were living in Sweden, she's living in Canada, right?
At one point, yes.
At one point, yeah.
And then
4 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, we were all over the place. I was in DC, she was in Kazakhstan, and
oh my goodness. You're well traveled, huh?
That was her, but yeah, you know,
jeez.
They'll send you anywhere.
Yeah. What was so like playing soccer in Sweden, was that a long period of time or?
The season runs like 7-8 months.
Was it just one season or?
I did 2 in Sweden, broken up by one season in the NWSL, but that was the COVID year, so it was.
Yeah. And sorry, what was that league that you were saying? The
NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, which is here in the US.
Yeah. What team did you play for there?
DC, the Washington Spirit.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But like I said, you know, it was 2020, so it wasn't a true season.
It was tough, yeah. So was all that like kind of Sweden, back to DC, back to Sweden, like all this stuff, injury was probably the thing that just kind of ended it for you. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's so tough.
Yeah.
Man, I have nowhere near like the experience of soccer you had. I just know like I fractured my spine in 2 spots, like playing soccer growing up. And that was pretty much the end of it. Like, all right, like it just hurt. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a pretty serious one. But like it is, especially when you get to that point of like being in college, being in professional sports like you were, to have that like thwarted. I'm sure that was probably tough for you, right? Like mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely. But you know, everyone gets to a point you're like you're approaching 30 and still playing, which a lot of girls are, and that's awesome. But it's hard. It's hard not to feel like you're behind in life. I know people say like don't put a clock on things, but
totally.
But it's like for us women's soccer players, like our 20s are all spent chasing it. You know, going. I have friends who have played in like Japan, like Sweden, Kazakhstan, like really all over the place. Yeah. And then like when you finally get to the point where you're done playing, you have to figure out kind of who you are after that, and also like what you want to do. So you do feel behind.
Yeah, and I can even understand that. I feel like we all, maybe like people listening to this, have felt that before, of like you get to a point in life, maybe it's post college, or maybe it's at some point where you got to make like a career shift, where you're like, you feel that sense of like, oh, I feel like I'm behind, or I feel like I'm not like I'm not where I wish I would be, or maybe I made mistakes or whatever the case is. I've been there. Like even just like a couple years ago, I like kind of had moved on from one job, and it's actually a similar thing you mentioned earlier. Like maybe I'll just be a teacher for a little bit. And I was a teacher for like 2 years. I think it takes a very special person to be a teacher. I loved my time spent with the kids, but I was at a point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's just not, it's not who I am. But I think it's good to be in moments like that, right? Like it's good to have like seasons of your life where it's like, all right, I'm not where I want to be, but I need to like, but I can make steps to getting to that place, you know?
For sure.
And so for you, I'm guessing that was like, okay, I need to, correct me if I'm wrong, like I need to come back home and kind of regroup. Is that right?
For sure. Yeah. And luckily for me, you know, with Scarpa's, I had something I could jump right into and make decent money and bridge the gap while I was sorting out who I am.
Yeah. Then that's great too. Like it's cool. Like, cause your family has such like a history in the restaurant business here. So what point, how did it spark when you were like, that building became open next to Scarpa's and you were like, I think I want to do something there?
You know, I was actually getting lunch with my dad and my stepmom. So they own Scarpa's together.
Yeah.
They have a second restaurant down in Boca Grande.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's
same thing, same Scarpa's?
Similar concept. Yeah. A little more seafood oriented, but
got it. Yeah.
Full bar. It's like 3 times the size as this one. So different feel, but same core. But yeah, they just kind of were throwing ideas out there. And I think my stepmom kind of planted the seed and she's like, do it. Like, you have an opportunity. She's like, you have all of us right here. And my family was great. Like, I had my little sister in there when we opened, just like running the front, and my mom just doing whatever needs to be done, as moms do.
Yeah, for sure.
My dad's in the back sweating, showing me how to do things.
Well, you had the connections, like you had the experience there, like helping you.
I had the experience around me. Personally, I didn't really have the experience. So it was a lot of like learning as we go. Still learning, but
well, that's part of it, right? Like I was literally just before I was, you know, interviewing another person for another podcast for another day. But we were just talking about like how often like you're held back by that fear of just not doing it. You know, the thing where you're like, oh man, I feel like I could actually do that. Like it's going to take like a little bit of like a faith step or whatever you want to call it, but I could do this and it might just work out, you know?
Sure, yeah. And it's nice when you have someone who knows you and loves you, just kind of giving you that push. For me, I've always been like extremely reserved. I'm the middle kid, middle child. So really timid, and I didn't want to like try new things. I think I was afraid of failing. So I just kind of became complacent in a lot of places.
Do you feel like with starting Jessie's Sandwich Shop, do you feel like you were very like calculated, or do you feel like it was like, all right, I'm just going to go for it?
You know, it's funny. One of my employees, she was there from day one. We laugh about the first week all the time. She said she was like venting to her friend. She's like, we haven't rehearsed anything. So there was definitely like we just all threw ourselves in the fire.
What was week one like? Was it what you expected?
It was the hardest week of my life. I mean, between sorting out like our point of sales, like getting all the items right, making sure that matched, figuring out how to do all that. And then obviously we had 0 systems in place. But leading up to opening, I was like meticulous in the planning of it. But we did a lot of like work to the building. So a lot of it was like orchestrating what I wanted it to look like. Along with like dealing with subcontractors and tiling and getting a hood system put in, which if you have any questions, don't ask me because that all went over my head. Well,
it's cool too to see like the place that you're in right now. And for people that are listening, you're not in Florida, you're not in Lakeland or whatever, like you may not understand what we're talking about, but the place that you're in was like a sandwich shop, I think like 2 times before, right? It always kind of been that. But what's so great about what you've done, and I think probably why you're seeing one of the many reasons why you're seeing success too, is like you actually gave it like an aesthetic. You know, you gave it like care as opposed to just being a shell of a building that you can drive up and grab a sandwich.
Right, and in this world and the day and age, like everything needs to be Instagrammable pretty much to appeal to a certain audience. So that was obviously I wanted it to be cute. I wanted people to like want to take pictures inside, outside. But the building itself is like, it's a unique building. I don't know if you're familiar with like old farm stores. Back in like, I think the 70s they were popular around here. It's pretty much just a drive-through all the way around. It's just a drive-through like convenience store. Like people would get their milk there. So the whole back kitchen of the building used to be a walk-in refrigerator. So there's like no air vents in the back.
probably gets rough back there middle of summer.
The building has its unique qualities, but
yeah,
yeah,
for sure, man. That's wild. What was it about? Was it from day one? It was like, okay, it's going to be sandwiches. Did you workshop any other ideas or?
Not really. I knew sandwiches would work because so during COVID, down in Boca Grande, where my dad and stepmom live and have the restaurant, everything was shut down, obviously. So they were trying to get creative and think of ways they could keep their employees employed and like you know generate some sort of income. So they did sandwiches down there for like 2-3 months maybe.
It was like easy, simple, something people could pick up instead of like the nice sit down dinner that people just weren't doing.
Right. So a lot of the same ingredients that they already had on hand. So I kind of had that as a base model. I took that and expanded upon it, added some different items, more items, and
yeah. Well, it's awesome too. And like what you like kind of said a little bit ago too, of like everything needs to be Instagrammable. I think there's definitely like a truth in that. Like people like want it to like, you know, be able to post pictures, want it to look nice. But I feel like what helps people stand out, especially when there's so many options now, is like you can see the care and detail that went into more of it, you know? Like if I have the option to go to somewhere that like I can tell it's like, oh, it's a clean place and it's nice and like the ingredients are quality, as opposed to somewhere that's like same price and you can tell it's not being taken care of well. It's like, oh, it's an easy decision for me to go to Jessie's,
right?
You know? And I'm sure it takes a little bit of extra to do things like the way you guys do, right? Like,
yeah, like, and I mean, we're also lucky. We have so many options. You want a sandwich, you can go X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But I really wanted it to feel like homey and kind of like have a little bit of like an old, I really leaned into like the family history in the building. From like the menu items to the pictures on the walls. So I wanted it to have like that little touch of like personal cool. Things like from top to bottom.
Yeah. My friends and I always used to say in college is like Lakeland is not short of like sandwich and soup shops, you know, like we do that really well. But there's only a few that like stand out. Right. And obviously I think one of those is you guys for sure. Well, like for what you're doing now, like, do you see this as something that you're like continuing to grow? What does it look like for the future of this, you know?
I mean, I've gotten that question a lot.
Yeah.
I always tell everyone I kind of started it and I'm going into it like with zero expectations. I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years.
Yeah.
I believe in the concept. I think the product's good.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it would do well and like it could have a couple different locations. And people want sandwiches when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
So luckily it's always nice down here.
Yeah. My wife literally works like around the corner from you guys. And we said this when you came here today, but like I see it all the time, like charges on our account. Like she'll just like run over there, grab a quick sandwich.
What's your favorite? Do you know?
I do. It's oh man, I know she gets like the pesto thing too. But I think it's that, and then there's another one. Is that the one that's like pesto, mozzarella, like all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, some caramelized onions on there.
Yes, I think that's hers. Yeah, there's a couple on there, but like I think we're both the same. It's like we find something we love, and that's like what we stick to. It's
latch
like,
onto it.
Yeah, we latch onto it. Do you feel like it's like you do multiple in Lakeland, or do you feel like this could be kind of growing into other cities, or?
God, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I've had some interest in, the new food hall down in Mulberry. I don't know if you know, but there's.
Oh, no, I didn't.
I think Depot 303.
Oh, cool.
John, he owns the joinery. He's facilitating that. He really wanted me to try to put one in there, but it was a little too early. Like I'm still trying to get things running smoothly here at the one location. And gradually like pulling myself out of it. Cause right now I'm there 6 days. I work every day.
Every day. Yeah.
And my staff is great. Like if they can cover me, I can go take like 3-4 days.
How long has it been open now? I forget. It's over a year now, right?
It's over a year. It was last October, or I guess 2 Octobers.
Yeah.
Now.
So you're like going on a little over a year. Yeah.
And over many months.
Which makes sense. I feel like people like there's a lot of work that goes into like starting something and getting it to that consistency, you know? Did you find, I found this like with the podcast, with the show here and with other things that I've done, like our community, especially in Lakeland, is like so helpful. Do you feel like you found, obviously your family too, but do you feel like there was like also just help within the community? Like we have the same person who designed our logos and all that. So yeah.
I mean, I think I'm gradually getting to know the community, and you know, like I said, I moved away. I was gone pretty much 10 years. Like, you know, I was back off seasons or like in the summertime, but I feel like I'm slowly kind of immersing myself in different businesses, getting to know the owners. And so I think that's still growing for me. I mean, it's so fun. Like, it's so cool. There's a book crawl. Someone reached out and asked if I wanted to like kind of participate in that, like with a lot of locally owned small bookshops, and they just go around and buy books. You bring a receipt and you get a discount or something.
Are you a big reader?
I'm getting into it. Getting back into it after school.
Yeah, after school, you're like, I don't want to do this for like a long time. Like, yeah. Not until like I can enjoy it. Yeah. What kind of books are you like reading right now?
I'm a sucker for all the fantasy, the magic. I've always liked like Harry Potter.
Okay. Game of Thrones.
I watched Game of Thrones. I couldn't get into the books.
Really? Oh man.
But it was also one of those things where it's hard once you watch something to go back.
You're just
and read
picturing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you want to go book and then movie.
I'm on the 3rd Game of Thrones book, and granted, I've put it down for like a month, but I like it because I feel like it's like just more like you're in their thoughts, you know what I mean? As opposed to just seeing what they're doing.
They're dense though, aren't they?
Oh, they're huge. Yeah. And like a buddy of mine has read all 5 of them. Like I know you're the same age as me. Like, how did you find the time, you know, to do all this?
You put the book down and then you forget what you read like 3 months ago.
Yeah. I don't know. You don't have kids, do you? Oh, okay. So like for me, even having kids too, I'm like, dude, I get like an hour maybe to like myself at night. Okay,
and then you'll read for 10 minutes and put yourself to sleep.
100%. Yeah.
But I've been really into audiobooks lately.
Okay.
I got a library card, downloaded the Libby app. Because for me, you know, I'm up early in the morning. Sometimes I'm there by myself for an hour, so I'll just put the headphone in and get going on audiobooks. So I've burned through a lot of those this year.
It's cool to hear too. Like I think that like it makes it special for me, and I'm sure for people that are like listening that like are in the Lakeland area that have gone to your shop, to like go beyond the step of just being like a customer, but knowing like the dedication that you put into it. Because you're not just like, it's not just like your name and then you're like, peace, I'm out. Right. You know what I mean? You're like, you're there. How early do you get there? Like, I mean, you guys don't open until 11, so you probably...
I'm 7:30 or 8.
Yeah, so, still. You're there getting ready.
Yeah, I mean, we try to make as much as we can in-house. So we're, you know, grilling, frying chicken, grilling eggplant, mushrooms, bacon. We roll our own meatballs, make marinara. We make all of our sauces.
It's a lot of work too.
It's a lot, yeah. But like I said, like we're getting to the point where I feel like we're a well-oiled machine. Like some mornings everyone just gets in there. We don't say too many words. Some mornings
you're just locked in.
We're just doing our thing, just kind of in the zone.
That is awesome. Do you guys, have you ever had a day where like you've just run out of stuff? Like I'm assuming that happens at some point, right?
We've gotten better at like figuring out the pars like each day, but some days you'll get a huge run on like meatballs, let's say, and you know, we only have so many. It's not like that's something you can just be like, all right, we have more of. And that's super fun when we run out of things. I'm being sarcastic.
Right.
Because I have to jump over to my laptop, and usually if we're running out of something, we're slammed busy. So I have to jump over to my laptop and pull it from the online ordering, because you know, someone could order it online and be like, sorry, we don't have it. So we have to call them. And
I didn't think about that. So there's so many factors into running a business, you know?
And, you know, obviously things could be streamlined a little bit better. I think my Square, I could have maybe a better version of it that we could do like remote. I don't have to get on the laptop, log in. 2-step verification, all with oily little hands.
But you guys are doing it and doing it well. Do you feel like there's, this may be a hard question to answer, so sorry to set you up like this, but like for like what you want like your guests to expect when they come to Jessie's, like it's like, is there some sort of like expectation? This is what I want you to feel or experience, anything like that?
That's a good question. Yeah. I think from like a food standpoint, obviously I want them to be able to taste and notice that it's good quality ingredients we're putting together. And, people might say it's like a little bit more expensive than, let's say, a pub sub or somewhere like down the road. But again, like it's the quality of the ingredients. And personally, I feel like our sandwiches, they're filling. So like, I don't want to like skimp on things. So
yeah, 100%.
I'd say that. And then from like more an emotional aspect or like a internal vibes, just feel good. Like everyone's eating food. I just think food is always associated with good, happy feelings, whether that's something nostalgic or just you enjoy tasting good things.
And maybe like spending time with each other, right? Like that's what I love too, that you actually added in, because that place before didn't have like seating or anything like that. And I've been there several times on like lunch breaks with like friends and people like that, just to like hang out, and it does feel like, I love that there is that, because it adds that like ability of like, hey, this is actually like good quality food, but there's also like, I can just like be in community right now,
Yeah.
I love that, man. It's so cool. It's cool to see like what you've done. I'm glad that we both used Gordon, who's been on the show before. And he just recently did like a new branding for you, right?
Oh,
right?
yes, for me.
For you.
Yes,
yeah,
of course.
yeah, for you.
I was like, for him, wow.
No.
No, Gordon, I'm so glad he like stumbled into the shop like I think week 1.
Really?
And like messaged me on Instagram. He's like, hey, really like enjoyed the sandwich. I love what you're doing. I'd love to be able to help you. And also like build my portfolio, like show people that, what I'm doing, there's value in it and it's worth the time and the money, which it absolutely is. Gordon's
for sure.
great.
He is awesome. Yeah. And that's what I love too about like when did you move back exactly to Lakeland? Was that 2023?
2020. I think my last season was 2021. So like end of 2021.
Okay. So a couple years, but this is where you were born. So you knew it. And so maybe you know this, or maybe it's changed since you left and came back. But something I love about our community is that like, there's so many like talented people, resourceful people, helpful people like a Gordon who could do like an amazing, design and branding for you guys. He would kill me if I said graphic, but it's actually branding. It's so much more. But like that from just other like business leaders. Obviously we have Catapult. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am now.
You are? Okay. Yeah.
Mainly through Gordon and like, listening to other people with their small businesses. Like a lot of people get started there at Catapult. Yeah. Which is it's so cool. We have that here in Lakeland.
100%. Yeah. It's super helpful for whether you're doing sandwiches or podcasts or like cybersecurity or whatever it is, that you're into. Like it's cool to see that we have like such a rich community here. Cause I don't think that's everywhere.
No. Yeah. And I think Lakeland kind of hits on like a lot of different categories of businesses. Like we have, let's say, bookstores, we have good restaurants, clothing, boutiques. Like it's not just like one thing.
Yeah. I think. And it's growing too. That's just cool to see. Like whether it's like breweries or like restaurants or whatever the case is, like there's new stuff that's coming. It's like, oh, this is like exciting. Like there's fun stuff to do here. You just got to like go out and do something, Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun. I am a huge fan of Jessie's Gourmet Sandwich Shop. That's the full official title, right?
Jessie's Gourmet Sandwiches.
Jessie's Gourmet Sandwiches.
That's, I guess, the official, but just Jessie's works.
I'm a huge fan. I think if you're in the Lakeland area, you should make sure that you swing by. Where are you guys at again? What road?
Edgewood. So Edgewood. 1825 Edgewood Drive.
Right near Scarpa's, which people know. My wife and I go there like almost every single date night. And then in that general area, make sure you go there. It's awesome. You're awesome too. Thank you so much for being on the show. Me. The way I do it always is kind of like with one more minute left. Maybe real quick, like obviously we've let people know how to find you. Is there a way for them to find you guys on social media?
We have Instagram.
Yeah.
Jessie's Gourmet Sandwiches.
Easy.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
Our website is jessieslakeland.com.
Yeah.
You can kind of get the full spiel on the website.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes too. But then last thing too, is there anything like that you would leave our listeners with, like a word of encouragement or something like that? Obviously you stepping out, starting a business, going through that grind, is there anything maybe like encouragement that you'd leave us with before we head out?
One big thing I've learned and I've gotten comfortable with is like you can plan X, Y, and Z and plan, but things are going to change. Unexpected things pop up. So just getting to a place where you're confident in yourself to problem solve and just figure it out with whatever life throws at you.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to put everything in the show notes, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Sweet. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.